All right, we are a little bit over 8 o'clock, but I had to pour a drink. It's one of those. Yeah, one of those. So, let's settle in, get comfortable, and channel some of that annoyance at the world. Because tonight, we're starting something new. Something hopefully interesting. And something maybe a little pessimistic. So, let's get ready to dive in. Welcome back. Tonight, we are starting a new project that may fill the opportunity space that we were hoping 1001 Nights would be able to fill, and that is just a bit of a filler read from time to time. This is one that has no story, has no overarching theme. Well, there's themes, but there's no story, there's no plot, there's no characters, there's just good, absolute savage cynicism and satire. So a little bit of social commentary, written in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I think it was early 1900s primarily, through primarily newspaper quotes and clippings. This was collected and published as a solid book. And I really couldn't think of anything that fit the times better. I was getting into it when we were reading Arabian Nights, and somehow the old grump just was channeling through hard on Tuesday. So I figured, let's go ahead and just embrace it. Yeah, exactly. We've been struggling a little bit. So I figured, why fight it? I have a feeling we all lean more or less the same way. You and I particularly have the same brain, so I wouldn't be surprised if we had the same opinions as well. So, that being the case, let's just lean into it. Because really, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna get canceled by MAGA? Fuck them. So, that's a little bit more on the nose than I really intended this to be, but meh. But alright, so, the context has been laid. This one is going to be a little bit on the drier side. There's not going to be a whole lot of voicing, there's not a whole lot of things. We're reading a dictionary. A fun dictionary, but a dictionary nonetheless. And you know what, actually, a little bit of a little further background here. When I was just getting started and conceptualizing what I wanted to do with the channel, one of the ideas that I'd had was to just take days to do Wikipedia wanders, where you just hit random, read the page aloud, hit random again, and just find your way through and see what you find. No need for prepping content, no need for any of that. It's just finding hopefully interesting things and talking to friends while you do it. It hasn't come up so far, but this is kind of in that vein, if I'm being entirely honest. With a little bit more of a cynical tint. So, but maybe one of these days we'll pull up the old Wikipedia and do what we can. Exactly. You just kind of find yourself. It's more productive than doom scrolling. You're learning something. You're on Wikipedia. It could be so much worse. You could be on Twitter. Oh, yeah. All right. So, let's go ahead and settle in tonight. It should be a relatively peaceful night. We've got, hopefully, I'm not sure how much representation each of these letters have in the dictionary. I'm not sure how long this is. Let's hope we can get through the A's tonight, at least. And we'll just find how we go. I'll just have some fun with it. Try not to be too cynical. Remember that this was written about, 100 years ago and change. A little bit more than that, if I remember right. So, the opinions of the times are not, or the contexts and the times are not necessarily speaking about today, but there are some criticisms and witticisms that are forever, because people don't learn, and things repeat, and I'm going to get myself depressed, so let's just get into the reading. Otherwise, I'll just start drinking. That's just no fun at all. It's way too early for that. Alright, so let's jump over to our reading nook. This does have a very evocative cover. I like this one a lot. It's simple. It's nothing too fancy. But it says, like, you get what it says on the tin. It's just a nice little bit of witticisms and fun, and there might be some pointed criticisms thrown in from time to time. Now, this one does have a foreword, or an author's note. And I think normally we skip these over, but given that this is likely the only bit of direct reference to the audience that the author is going to give, let's go ahead and give it a try tonight. So, let's go ahead and... How long is this? It goes through the dictionary. That's for... Alright, so let's begin with the author's preface of The Devil's Dictionary. The Devil's Dictionary was begun in a weekly paper in 1881 and was continued in a desultory way at long intervals until 1906. In that year, a large part of it was published in covers with the title The Cynic's Word Book, a name which the author had not the power to reject, or happiness to approve. To quote the publishers of the present work, this more reverent title had previously been forced upon him by the religious scruples of the last newspaper in which a part of the work had appeared, with the natural consequence that when it came out in covers, the country had already been flooded by its imitators with a score of cynic books. The cynics this, the cynics that, and the cynics t'other. Most of these books were merely stupid, though some of them added the distinction of silliness. Among them, they brought the word cynic into disfavor, so deep that any book bearing it was discredited in advance of publication. Meantime, too, some of the enterprising humorists of the country had helped themselves to such parts of the work as served their needs, and many of its definitions, anecdotes, phrases, and so forth have become more or less current in popular speech. This explanation is made not with any pride or priority in trifles, but in simple denial of possible charges of plagiarism, which is no trifle. In merely resuming his own, the author hopes to be held guiltless by those to whom the work is addressed, enlightened souls who prefer dry wines to sweet, sense to sentiment, wit to humor, and clean English to slang. A conspicuous, and it is hoped not unpleasant feature of the book is its abundant illustrative quotations from eminent poets, chief of whom is that learned and ingenious cleric, Father Gasalaska Jape, S.J., whose lines bear his initials. To Father Jape's kindly encouragement and assistance, the author of the prose text is greatly indebted. Alright, now we get to the fun part. We're just reading the dictionary. Why my choice of thumbnail was, I thought, rather salient. All right. Beginning with the letter A. Abasement. Noun. A decent and customary mental attitude in the presence of wealth or power. Peculiarly appropriate in an employee when addressing an employer. Okay, I see we're starting off very, very strongly. I like this guy already. Abatis. Noun. Rubbish in front of a fort. To prevent the rubbish outside from molesting the rubbish inside. Abdication. Noun. An act whereby a sovereign attests his sense of the high temperature of the throne. Poor Isabella's dead, whose abdication set all tongues wagging in the Spanish nation. For that performance 'twere unfair to scold her. She wisely left a throne too hot to hold her. To history she'll be no royal riddle, merely a plain parched pea that jumped the griddle. G.J. Abdomen. Noun. The temple of the god's stomach, in whose worship with sacrificial rites all true men engage. From women this ancient faith commands but a stammering assent. They sometimes minister at the altar in a half-hearted and ineffective way, but true reverence for the one deity that men really adore they know not. If women had a free hand in the word's marketing, the race would become graminivorous. I really like this guy now. There's already, we're not even half a page in, and these are hitting very well. And proving that, in fact, satire and social commentary are timeless. Because, yes, we are in a good old-fashioned loop. Ability. Noun. The natural equipment to accomplish some small part of the meaner ambitions distinguishing able men from dead ones. In the last analysis, ability is commonly found to consist mainly in a high degree of solemnity. Perhaps, however, this impressive quality is rightly appraised. It is no easy task to be solemn. Abnormal. Adjective. Not conforming to standard. In matters of thought and conduct, to be independent is to be abnormal. To be abnormal is to be detested. Wherefore the lexicographer adviseth a striving toward the straighter resemblance of the average man than he hath to himself. Whoso attaineth thereto shall have peace, the prospect of death, and the hope of hell. Aborigines. Noun. Persons of little worth found cumbering the soil of a newly discovered country. They soon cease to cumber. They fertilize. Abracadabra. By abracadabra we signify an infinite number of things. 'Tis the answer to what, and how, and why, and whence, and whither, a word whereby the truth, with the comfort it brings, is open to all who grope in night, crying for wisdom's holy light. Whether the word is a verb or a noun is knowledge beyond my reach. I only know that 'tis handed down, from sage to sage, from age to age, an immortal part of speech. Of an ancient man the tale is told, that he lived to be 10 centuries old. In a cave on a mountain's side, true, he finally died. The fame of his wisdom filled the land, for his head was bald, and you'll understand. His beard was long and white, and his eyes uncommonly bright. Philosophers gathered from far and near to sit at his feet and hear, though he never was heard to utter a word, but abracadabra, abracadab, abracada, abracad, abrac-abra-ab. 'Twas all he had. 'Twas all they wanted to hear, and each more made copious notes of the mystical speech, which they published next, a trickle of text in a meadow of commentary. Mighty big books were these, in number as leaves of trees, in learning remarkable vary. He's dead, as I said, and the books of the sages have perished, but his wisdom is sacredly cherished. In abracadabra it solemnly rings, like an ancient bell that forever swings. Oh, I love to hear that word made clear. Humanity's general sense of things. Jamrak Hollabom. Abridge. A verb. I'm not sure what the T is in a dictionary context, actually. To shorten. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for people to abridge their king, a decent respect for the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Oliver Cromwell. That is an auspicious person to bring to note when you're talking about abridging a king. Whew. Abrupt. Adjective. Sudden, without ceremony, like the arrival of a cannon shot, and the departure of the soldier whose interests are most affected by it. Dr. Samuel Johnson beautifully said of another author's ideas that they were concatenated without abruption. Abscond. Verb. To move in a mysterious way, commonly with the property of another. Spring beckons, all things to the call respond. The trees are leaving and cashiers abscond. Fela on. Absent. Adjective. Peculiarly exposed to the tooth of detraction, vilified hopelessly in the wrong, superseded in the consideration and affection of another. To men, a man is but a mind. Who cares what face he carries or what form he wears? But woman's body is the woman. Oh, stay thou, my sweetheart, and do never go, but heed the warning words the sage hath said, a woman absent is a woman dead. Jogo Tyree. Absentee. Noun, a person with an income who has had the forethought to remove himself from the sphere of exaction. Okay, I can dig it. Absolute. Adjective. Independent, irresponsible. An absolute monarchy is one in which the sovereign does as he pleases, so long as he pleases the assassins. Not many absolute monarchies are left, most of them having been replaced by limited monarchies, where the sovereign's power for evil and for good is greatly curtailed, and by republics, which are governed by chance. Abstainer. Noun. A weak person who yields to the temptation of denying himself a pleasure. A total abstainer is one who abstains from everything but abstention, and especially from inactivity in the affairs of others. Said a man to a crapulent youth, I thought you a total abstainer, my son. So I am, said the scapegrace caught, but not, sir, a bigoted one. G.J. Absurdity. Noun. A statement or belief manifestly inconsistent with one's own opinion. Very nice. Academy. Noun. An ancient school where morality and philosophy were taught. Academy. Noun. From academy. A modern school where football is taught. Okay. Accident. Noun. An inevitable occurrence due to the action of immutable natural laws. We're only an A, and this is actually great. Exactly. Accomplice. Noun. One associated with another in a crime, having guilty knowledge and complicity, as an attorney who defends a criminal, knowing him guilty. This view of the attorney's position is the matter has not hitherto commanded the assent of attorneys, no one having offered them a fee for assenting. Accord. Noun. Harmony. Accordion. Noun. An instrument in harmony with the assentiments of an assassin. have a feeling I'll be having a few breakouts through the course of this reading. Accountability. Noun. The mother of caution. My accountability, bear in mind, said the Grand Vizier. Yes, yes, said the Shah, I do. 'Tis the only kind of ability you possess. Joram Tate. Accuse. Verb. To affirm another's guilt. Verb, transitive. I think that's what it is. To affirm another's guilt or unworth. Most commonly, a justification of ourselves for having wronged him. Acephalous. Adjective. In the surprising condition of the crusader who absently pulled at his forelock some hours after a Saracen scimitar had, unconsciously to him, passed through his neck, as related by de Jonville. Achievement. Noun. The death of endeavor and the birth of disgust. Yeah, the last few years have been rough for the sensible sort. So, something like this is cathartic and absolutely necessary to survive in an absurd world. Alright. Acknowledge. Verb. Transitive. To confess acknowledgement of one another's faults is the highest duty imposed by our love of truth. Acquaintance. Noun. A person whom we know well enough to borrow from, but not well enough to lend to. A degree of friendship called slight when its object is poor or obscure, and intimate when he is rich or famous. Actually. Adverb. Perhaps. Possibly. Adage. Noun. Boned wisdom for weak teeth. Deny that. Thank you. Automod actually caught that one before letting it through. Adamant. Noun. A mineral frequently found beneath a corset, soluble in solicitate of gold. Adder. Noun. A species of snake, so called from its habit of adding funeral outlays to the other expenses of living. Adherent. Noun. A follower who has not yet obtained all that he expects to get. Administration. Noun. An ingenious abstraction in politics designed to receive the kicks and cuffs due to the premier or president. A man of straw, proof against bad egging and dead catting. Damn, dude. Okay, sometimes times really don't change, do they? Admiral. Noun. That part of a warship which does the talking while the figurehead does the thinking. Admiration. Noun. Our polite recognition of another's resemblance to ourselves. I will say I'm rather pleased that Twitch doesn't wrongly censor you the way YouTube does. YouTube is a rather more aggressive in its self-moderation. Which ones they decide to take, I have not the foggiest of ideas. I wonder if it's a different API then, because I don't know that it's ever gone through such that it shows up on the screen but not on my chat window, like it used to with YouTube chat. But maybe it's catching it and just not letting it through at all. Twitch do as Twitch will. Alright. Admiration. Noun. Our polite recognition of another's resemblance to ourselves. Admonition. Noun. Gentle reproof, as with a meat axe. Friendly warning. Consigned by way of admonition, his soul forever to perdition. Judibra. Adore. Verb. Transitive. To venerate expectantly. The expectantly was absolutely necessary. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Advice. Noun. The smallest current coin. Ooh. The man was in such deep distress, said Tom, that I could do no less than give him good advice. Said Jim, if less could have been done for him, I know you well enough, my son, to know that that's what you would have done. Jebel Jacordi. Affianced. Present participle, I think is what it is. Fitted with an ankle ring for the ball and chain. Oh, dude. Affliction. Noun. An acclimatizing process preparing the soul for another and bitter world. African. Noun. A Negro that votes our way. Jesus Christ. Age. Noun. That period of life in which we compound for the vices that we still cherish by reviling those that we have no longer the enterprise to commit. Yeah, a reminder that this was written in the late 1800s. So, that was... yeah, that's just how it was. Not to... and that's why the self-censor is inserted as it was. Alright. Agitator. Noun. A statesman who shakes the fruit trees of his neighbors to dislodge the worms. Aim. Noun. The task we set our wishes to. Cheer up. Have you no aim in life? She tenderly inquired. An aim? Well, no, I haven't, wife. The fact is, I have fired. G.J. Air. Noun. A nutritious substance supplied by a bountiful providence for the fattening of the poor. Ooh. Ooh. Alderman. Noun. An ingenious criminal who covers his secret thieving with a pretense of open marauding. Alien. Noun. An American sovereign in his probationary state. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Noun. The Mahometan supreme being, as distinguished from the Christian, Jewish, and so forth. Allah's good laws I faithfully have kept, and ever for the sins of man have wept. And sometimes, kneeling in the temple, I have reverently crossed my hands and slept. Junker Barlow. Allegiance. Noun. This thing, allegiance, as I suppose, is a ring fitted in the subject's nose, whereby that organ is kept rightly pointed to smell the sweetness of the Lord's anointed. G.J. Alliance. Noun. In international politics, the union of two thieves who have their hands so deeply inserted in each other's pockets that they cannot separately plunder a third. Alligator. Noun. The crocodile of America, superior in every detail to the crocodile of the effete monarchies of the Old World. Herodotus says the Indus is, with one exception, the only river that produces crocodiles, but they appear to have gone west and grown up with the other rivers. From the notches on his back, the alligator is called a saurian. Alone. Adjective. In bad company. Bro. In contact. Lo, the flint and steel. By spark and flame the thought reveal, that he the metal, she the stone, had cherished secretly alone. Bulli Fito. Altar. Noun. The place whereupon the priest formally ravelled out the small intestine of the sacrificial victim for purposes of divination, and cooked its flesh for the gods. The word is now seldom used, except with reference to the sacrifice of their liberty and peace by a male and a female tool. They stood before the altar and supplied the fire themselves, in which their fat was fried. In vain the sacrifice no god will claim, an offering burnt with an unholy flame. MP Nopet. Ambrose has some opinions on marriage, it seems. Ambidextrous. Adjective. Able to pick with equal skill a right hand pocket or a left. Ambition. Noun. An overmastering desire to be vilified by enemies while living and made ridiculous by friends when dead. Amnesty. Noun. The state's magnanimity to those offenders whom it would be too expensive to punish. Real. Anoint. Verb. Transitive. To grease a king or other great functionary already sufficiently slippery. As sovereigns are anointed by the priesthood, so pigs are to lead the populace are greased good. Judibra. Judibras? Antipathy. Noun. The sentiment inspired by one's friend's friend. Aphorism. Noun. Pre-digested wisdom. The flabby wineskin of his brain yields to some pathologic strain, and voids from its unstored abysm the driblet of an aphorism. The Mad Philosopher, 1697. Apologize. Verb. Intransitive. To lay the foundation for future offense. Apostate. Noun. A leech who, having penetrated the shell of a turtle only to find that the creature has been long dead, deems it expedient to form a new attachment to a fresh turtle. Apothecary. Noun. The physician's accomplice, undertaker's benefactor, and graveworm's provider. Ooh. When Jove sent blessings to all men that are, and Mercury conveyed them in a jar, that friend of tricksters introduced by stealth disease for the apothecary's health, whose gratitude impelled him to proclaim, "My deadliest drug shall bear my patron's name." G.J. Peel. Verb. Transitive. In law, to put the dice into the box for another throw. Okay, yeah, some things really never change. Wow. Appetite. Noun. An instinct thoughtfully implanted by Providence as a solution to the labor question. Applause. Noun. The echo of a platitude. April Fool. Noun. The March Fool with another month added to his folly. Archbishop. Noun. An ecclesiastical dignitary 1 point holier than a bishop. If I were a jolly archbishop, on Fridays I'd eat all the fish, up salmon and flounders and smelt. On other days, everything else. Jodo Rem. Architect. Noun. One who drafts a plan of your house, and plans a draft of your money. Ardor. Noun. The quality that distinguishes love without knowledge. Arena. Noun. In politics, an imaginary rat pit, in which the statesman wrestles with his record. Aristocracy. Noun. Government by the best men. In this sense, the word is obsolete. So is that kind of government. Fellows that wear downy hats and clean shirts, guilty of education and suspected of bank accounts. Armor. Noun. the kind of clothing worn by a man whose tailor is a blacksmith. Arrayed, present participle. Drawn, or past participle. Drawn up and given an orderly disposition, as a rioter hanged to a lamppost. Damn. That might be a little on the nose right now. Arrest. Verb. Transitive. Formally to detain one accused of unusualness. Ooh. Ooh. God made the world in 6 days, and was arrested on the 7th. The unauthorized version. Arsenic. Noun. A kind of cosmetic greatly affected by the ladies, whom it greatly affects in turn. Eat arsenic. Yes, all you get. Consenting, he did speak up. 'Tis better you should eat it, pet, than put it in my teacup. Joel Huck. Art. Noun. This word has no definition. Its origin is related as follows by the ingenious Father Gasalaska Jape, S.J. One day a wag, what would the wretch be at, shifted a letter of the cipher rat, and said it was a god's name. Straight arose fantastic priests and postulants, with shows and mysteries and mummeries and hymns, and disputations dire that lamed their limbs, to serve his temple and maintain the fires, expound the law, manipulate the wires, amazed the populace that rites attend, believe whate'er they cannot comprehend, and in the edified to learn that two half-hairs joined, so and so, as art can do, have sweeter values and a grace more fit than nature's hairs that never have been split. Bring cates and wines for sacrificial feasts, and sell their garments to support the priests. Artlessness. Noun. A certain engaging quality, to which women attain by long study and severe practice upon the admiring male, who is pleased to fancy it resembles the candid simplicity of his young. Asperse. Verb. Transitive. Maliciously to ascribe to another vicious actions which one had not had the temptation and opportunity to commit. Ass. Noun. A public singer with a good voice but no ear. In Virginia City, Nevada, he is called the Washoe Canary. In Dakota, the Senator. And everywhere, the donkey. The animal is widely and variously celebrated in the literature, art, and religion of every age and country. No other so engages and fires the human imagination as this noble vertebrate. Indeed, it is doubted by some, from Silius, Lib. 2nd, de Clem, and C. Stantanus, de Temperamente, if it is not a god. And, as such, we know it was worshipped by the Etruscans. And, if we may believe Macrobius, by the Occupatians also. Of the only two animals admitted into the Mahometan paradise along with the souls of men, the ass that carried Balaam is one, the dong of the 7 sleepers the other. This is no small distinction. From what has been written about this beast might be compiled a library of great splendor and magnitude, rivaling that of the Shakespearean cult, and that which clusters about the Bible. It may be said generally that all literature is more or less asinine. Hail, holy ass, the choiring angels sing, priest of unreason and of discord's king. Great co-creator, let thy glory shine. God made all else. The mule is thine. G.J. Auctioneer. The man who proclaims with a hammer that he has picked a pocket with his tongue. Australia. Noun. A country lying in the South Sea, whose industrial and commercial development has been unspeakably retarded by an unfortunate dispute among geographers as to whether it is a continent or an island. Avernus, noun. The lake by which the ancients entered the infernal regions. The fact that access to the infernal regions was obtained by a lake is believed by the learned Marcus Ancellos Scrutator to have suggested the Christian rite of baptism by immersion. This, however, has been shown by Lactantius to be an error. Facilis descensus Averni, the poet remarks, and the sense of it is that when downhill I turn, I will get more of punches than pence. Jehol Dilute. Oh, we made it through A. So let's take a quick moment. I know we've stopped a few times through to recognize some of the more juicy bits, but I'm very happy with this so far. It is biting, it is cynical, it is sarcastic, and so much of it is just speaking to human nature rather than anything that is particularly current, which is both a relief and abundantly depressing, given that it's good to know that everyone has had the same problems as we for ever and always, but it's also depressing to know that everyone has always had the same problems forever and always and are unlikely to overcome them. A quick reminder with this, because of the format of this book, it is absolutely, totally, amazingly fine to interrupt. Chime in, chat, have a moment, just whatever. You're more than welcome. You're always welcome to chat while we're reading, always. But in this particularly, there are so many stops and breaks, I can interrupt myself without any hesitation. So feel free to join in and interrupt me as well. Alright. The letter B. Baal. Noun. An old deity formerly much worshipped under various names. As Baal, he was popular with the Phoenicians. As Belus, or Bel, he had the honor to be served by the priest Berosus, who wrote the famous account of the deluge. As Babel, he had a tower partly erected to his glory on the plain of Shinar. From Babel comes our English word Babel. Under whatever name worshipped, Baal is the sun god. As Beelzebub, he is the god of flies, which are gotten of the sun's rays on the stagnant water. In Physicia, Baal is still worshipped as Bolus, and as Beli he is adored and served with abundant sacrifice by the priests of Guttledom. Yeah, exactly. That is how that's how I encourage. I will address comments in chat if I can or am so inclined, and if not, don't take offense. Sometimes I just have too much going on. Alright. Babe or baby. Noun. A misshapen creature of no particular age, sex, or condition, chiefly remarkable for the violence of the sympathies and antipathies it excites in others, itself without sentiment or emotion. There have been famous babes, for example, little Moses, from whose adventure in the bulrushes the Egyptian hierophants of 7 centuries before doubtless derived their idle tale of the child Osiris being preserved on a floating lotus leaf. Ere babes were invented, the girls were contented. Now man is tormented, until to buy babes he has squandered his money, and so I have pondered this thing, and thought, maybe 'twere better that baby the first had been eagled or condored. Damn! Ro Amil. Bacchus. Noun. A convenient deity, invented by the ancients as an excuse for getting drunk. Fair. Fair. Is public worship, then, a sin? That for devotions paid to Bacchus, the lictors dare to run us in, and resolutely thump and whack us. Horace. Back, noun, the part of your friend which it is your privilege to contemplate in your adversity. Backbite, a verb, transitive, to speak of a man as you find him when he can't find you. Very true. Bait, noun, a preparation that renders the hook more palatable. The best kind is beauty. Baptism, noun, a sacred rite of such efficacy that he who finds himself in heaven without having undergone it will be unhappy forever. It is performed with water in 2 ways. By immersion, or plunging, and by aspersion, or sprinkling. But whether the palm of immersion is better than simple aspersion, let those immersed and those aspersed decide by the authorized version, and by matching their extertion. GJ. Barometer, noun, an ingenious instrument, which indicates what kind of weather we are having. I think... yeah. Barrack, noun, a house in which soldiers enjoy a portion of that of which it is their business to deprive others. Ooh, damn. A basilisk, noun, the cockatrice, a sort of serpent hatched from the egg of a cock. The basilisk had a bad eye, and its glance was fatal. Many infidels deny this creature's existence, but Samprello Orator saw and handled one that had been blinded by lightning as a punishment for having fatally gazed on a lady of rank whom Jupiter loved. Juno afterward restored the reptile's sight and hid it in a cave. Nothing is so well attested by the ancients as the existence of the basilisk, but the cocks have stopped laying. Bastinado, noun, the act of walking on wood without exertion. A bath, noun, a kind of mystic ceremony substituted for religious worship, with what spiritual efficacy has not been determined. The man who taketh a steam bath, he loseth all the skin he hath, and, for he's boiled, a brilliant red, thinketh to cleanliness he's wed, forgetting that his lungs he's soiling with dirty vapours of the boiling. Richard Wow. Battle, noun, a method of untying with the teeth of a political knot that would not yield to the tongue. That is a little close to bone right now. A beard, noun, the hair that is commonly cut off by those who justly execrate the absurd Chinese custom of shaving the head. Beauty, noun, the power by which a woman charms a lover and terrifies a husband. Befriend, verb, transitive, to make an ingrate. Beg, verb, to ask for something with an earnestness proportioned to the belief that it will not be given. Who is that, father? A mendicant child, haggard, morose, and unaffable wild. See how he glares through the bars of his cell. With citizen, mendicant, all is not well. Why did they put him there, father? Because, obeying his belly, he struck at the laws. His belly? Oh, well, he was starving, my boy, a state in which, doubtless, there's little of joy. No bite had he eaten for days, and his cry was, bread, ever bread. The matter with pie? With little to wear, he had nothing to sell. To beg was unlawful, improper as well. Why didn't he work? He would even have done that, but men said, get out, and the state remarked, scat. I mention these incidents merely to show that the vengeance he took was uncommonly low. Revenge, at the best, is the act of a Sioux. But for trifles... Pray, what did bad mendicant do? Stole 2 loaves of bread to replenish his lack, and tuck out the belly that clung to his back. "Is that all, father dear?" "There's little to tell. They sent him to jail, and they'll send him to well. The company's better there than what here we can boast. And there's bread for the needy, dear father." Toast. Actimip. A beggar. Noun. One who has relied on the assistance of his friends. Behavior. Noun. Conduct, as determined not by principle but by breeding. The word seems to be somewhat loosely used in Dr. Jamrach Hollobom's translation of the following lines from the Dies Irae. Recordare Jesu pie, quod sum causa tuare viae, ne me perdas illa de, vie. Pray remember, sacred Saviour. Whose the thoughtless hand that gave your death blow? Pardon such behavior. Belladonna. Noun. In Italian, a beautiful lady. In English, a deadly poison. A striking example of the essential identity of the two tongues. Benedictines. Noun. An order of monks otherwise known as Black Friars. She thought it was a crow, but it turned out to be a monk of St. Benedict croaking a text. "Here's one of an order of cooks," said she. "Black friars in this world, fried black in the next." The Devil on Earth, London, 1712. Benefactor. Noun. One who makes heavy purchases of ingratitude, without, however, materially affecting the price, which is still within the means of all. Berenice's hair. Noun. A constellation, Coma Berenices, named in honor of one who sacrificed her hair to save her husband. Her locks an ancient lady gave, her loving husband's life to save, and men they honored so the dame, upon some stars bestowed her name. But to our modern married fair, who'd give their lords to save their hair, no stellar recognition's given. There are not stars enough in heaven. Ooh. Yeah, Ambrose has opinions about the concept of marriage, the institution of marriage, and on both sides. Between the ball and chain comment earlier, the altar, and here, ooh, boy. Bigamy. Noun. A mistake in taste, for which the wisdom of the future will adjudge a punishment called trigamy. A bigot. Noun. One who is obstinately and zealously attached to an opinion that you do not entertain. A billingsgate. Noun. The invective of an opponent. Birth. Noun. The first and direst of all disasters. As to the nature of it, there appears to be no uniformity. Castor and Pollux were born from the egg. Pallas came out of a skull. Galatea was once a block of stone. Paracelsus, who wrote in the 12th century, avers that he grew up out of the ground, where a priest had spilled holy water. It is known that Arimaxus was derived from a hole in the earth, made by a stroke of lightning. Leucomedon was the son of a cavern in Mount Etna, and I have myself seen a man come out of a wine cellar. Blackguard. Noun. A man whose qualities prepared for display like a box of berries in a market. The fine ones on top have been opened on the wrong side. An inverted gentleman. Blank verse. Noun. Unrhymed iambic pentameters. The most difficult kind of English verse to write acceptably. A kind, therefore, much affected by those who cannot acceptably write any kind. Body snatcher. Noun. A robber of grave worms. One who supplies the young physicians with that with which the old physicians have supplied the undertaker. the hyena. One night, a doctor said, last fall, I and my comrades, 4 in all, when visiting a graveyard stood within the shadow of a wall. While waiting for the moon to sink, we saw a wild hyena slink about a new-made grave, and then began to excavate its brink. Shocked by the horrid act, we made a sally from our ambuscade, and, falling on the unholy beast, dispatched him with a pick and spade. Battle K. Jones. A bondsman. Noun. A fool who, having property of his own, undertakes to become responsible for that entrusted to another, to a third. Philippe of Orleans, wishing to appoint one of his favorites, a dissolute nobleman, to a high office, asked him what security he would be able to give. I need no bondsman, he replied, for I can give you my word of honor. And pray what may be the value of that? Inquired the amused regent. Monsieur, it is worth its weight in gold. Nicely put. Bore. Noun. A person who talks when you wish him to listen. Botany. Noun. The science of vegetables. Those that are not good to eat, as well as those that are. It deals largely with their flowers, which are commonly badly designed, inartistic in color, and ill-smelling. Bottle-nosed. Adjective. Having a nose created in the image of its maker. Boundary. Noun. In political geography, an imaginary line between two nations, separating the imaginary rights of one from the imaginary rights of the other. Bounty. Noun. The liberality of one who has much, in permitting one who has nothing to get all that he can. A single swallow, it is said, devours 10 millions of insects every year. The supplying of these insects I take to be a signal instance of the Creator's bounty in providing for the lives of his creatures. Henry Ward Beecher. Brahma. Noun. He who created the Hindus, who are preserved by Vishnu and destroyed by Shiva. A rather neater division of labor than is found among the deities of other nations. The abracadabranese, for example, are created by sin, maintained by theft, and destroyed by folly. The priests of Brahma, like those of abracadabranese, are holy and learned men who are never haughty. O Brahma, thou rare old divinity, first person of the Hindu Trinity, you sit there so calm and securely, with feet folded up so demurely. You're the first person singular, surely. Polydor, Smith. Brain. Noun. An apparatus with which we think what we think. That which distinguishes the man who is content to be something from the man who wishes to do something. A man of great wealth, or one who has been pitchforked into high station, has commonly such a head full of brain that his neighbors cannot keep their hats on. In our civilization, and under our republican form of government, brain is so highly honored that it is rewarded by exemption from the cares of office. Yes, indeed. Some things never change. Brandy. Noun. A cordial composed of 1 part thunder and lightning, 1 part remorse, 2 parts bloody murder, 1 part death, hell, and the grave, and 4 parts clarified Satan. Dose, a headful all the time. Brandy is said by Dr. Johnson to be the drink of heroes. Only a hero will venture to drink it. Bride. Noun. A woman with a fine prospect of happiness behind her. Brute. Noun. See husband. All right, that gets us through the letter B. All right, let's go ahead and take a short break. This has been actually a very quick reading. Like, this past hour has flown by. I'm enjoying this book quite a lot. Partly because it's such a nice change from what we usually read. Literature is kind of our bread and butter around here, but this is a nice change of pace. To not have to worry about voices, to not have to worry about trying to be politically correct, to just take the satire, take the criticisms, the cynicisms, and everything as they come, appreciate the reflection of 100 years ago, and how a lot of these criticisms and witticisms are still very, very appropriate. This is fun. And as you had mentioned earlier, this is just what the doctor ordered. The world can be a very depressing place, particularly if you pay attention to it. So, sometimes, take a step back and just have a laugh. Because the absurdity of it all, that's all you really need to worry about sometimes. Alright, let's go ahead and take a few minutes break. We'll be back. Go ahead and stretch your legs, top up your drinks, and we'll be back to continue with the letter C. Alright, we are back. Took a little bit longer than anticipated. I did need to... Well, I was inspired when I took a look at the fridge that I have the makings of a few drinks. So I can do a little bit better than just straight or on the rocks or pouring out a beer. So, we are switching things up a little bit tonight with a nice and simple classic, a Manhattan. 3-ish ingredients, just 2 parts whiskey, 1 part sweet vermouth, a few dashes of bitters, and if you've got one, a little bit of a cherry or a citrus twist for garnish. Nice and easy, and it'll get the job done. Because when your measurements are shot glasses, 2 parts whiskey is actually quite a large glass. It feels this covers pretty much all of my rocks glass at the moment. And I can think of worse things to be sentenced to than a stiff drink. Yep. Ooh, yep, that hits good. Alright, so let's get back into the Devil's Dictionary. This has been a wonderfully flippant take so far. And I, for one, am very happy with the bit of an accidental finding as we had it. See, that... I've never done a stint as a bartender. I've waited tables, but not tended bar. So I don't have the art of timing pours. Particularly, I don't fit my personal bottles with pourers or spouts. So I just keep a shot glass nearby and use that as my measuring stick. It might be a shot and a half, 2 shot glass. So some of these portions and pours might get a little heavy sometimes. I can think of worse things to be sentenced to than a heavy-handed home bar. Alright, so let's resume from the letter C. We're having our very own twist and bastardization of Sesame Street tonight. Will Elmo teach you any of these words? I think not. Alright, C. Kaaba, noun. A large stone presented by the Archangel Gabriel to the Patriarch Abraham, and preserved at Mecca. The Patriarch had perhaps asked the Archangel for bread. Cabbage, noun. A familiar kitchen garden vegetable about as large and wise as a man's head. The cabbage is so called from Cabbagius, a prince who, on ascending the throne, issued a decree appointing a high council of empire consisting of the members of his predecessor's ministry and the cabbages in the royal garden. When any of his majesty's measures of state policy miscarried conspicuously, it was gravely announced that several members of the high council had been beheaded, and his murmuring subjects were appeased. Calamity, noun. A more than commonly plain and unmistakable reminder that the affairs of this life are not of our own ordering. Calamities are of 2 kinds, misfortune to ourselves and good fortune to others. Callous, adjective. Gifted with great fortitude to bear the evils afflicting another. When Zeno was told that one of his enemies was no more, he was observed to be deeply moved. "What?" said one of his disciples. "You weep at the death of an enemy." "Ah, 'tis true," replied the great Stoic. "But you should see the smile at the death of a friend." Columnus, noun. A graduate of the school for scandal. Camel, noun. A quadruped. The Splapes humidipasora, Humpidorsus. of great value to the show business. There are two kinds of camels, the camel proper and the camel improper. It is the latter that is always exhibited. Cannibal, noun, a gastronome of the old school, who preserves the simple tastes and adheres to the natural diet of the pre-pork period. Canon, noun, an instrument employed in the rectification of national boundaries. Canonicals, noun, the motley worn by jesters of the court of heaven. A capital, noun, the seat of misgovernment, that which provides the fire, the pot, the dinner, the table, and the knife and fork for the anarchist. The part of the repast that himself supplies is the disgrace before meat. Capital punishment, a penalty regarding the justice and expediency of which many worthy persons, including all the assassins, entertain grave misgivings. Carmelite, a mendicant friar, noun, a mendicant friar of the order of Mount Carmel. As Death was a-riding out one day, across Mount Carmel he took his way, where he met a mendicant monk some 3 or 4 quarters drunk, with a holy leer and a pious grin, ragged and fat and as saucy as sin, who held out his hands and cried, "Give, give, in charity's name, I pray! Give in the name of the church! Oh, give, give, that her holy sons may live!" And Death replied, smiling long and wide, "I'll give, holy father, I'll give thee a ride." With a rattle and bang of his bones he sprang from his famous pale horse with his spear. By the neck and the foot seized the fellow, and put him astride with the face to the rear. The monarch laughed loud, with a sound that fell like clods on the coffin's sounding shell. "Ha ha! A beggar on horseback, they say! We'll ride to the devil!" And thump fell the flat of his dart on the rump of the charger which galloped away. Faster and faster and faster it flew, till the rocks and the flocks and the trees that grew by the road were dim and blended and blue, to the wild, wild eyes of the rider in size, resembling a couple of blackberry pies. Death laughed again, as a tomb might laugh, at a burial service spoiled, and the mourner's intentions foiled, by the body erecting its head and objecting to further proceedings in its behalf. Many a year and many a day have passed since these events away. The monk has long been a dusty corse, and Death has never recovered his horse, for the friar got hold of its tail and steered it within the pale of the monastery grey, where the beast was stabled and fed with barley and oil and bread, till fatter it grew than the fattest friar, and so in due course was appointed prior. G.J. Carnivorous, adjective, addicted to the cruelty of devouring the timorous vegetarian, his heirs and assigns. Cartesian, adjective, relating to Descartes, a famous philosopher, author of the celebrated dictum Cogito ergo sum, whereby he was pleased to suppose he demonstrated the reality of human existence. The dictum might be improved, however, thus: Cogito ergo cogito sum. I think that I think, therefore I think that I am. As close an approach to certainty as any philosopher has yet made. Cat, noun, a soft, indestructible automaton provided by nature to be kicked when things go wrong in the domestic circle. Hey! This is a dog. This is a cat. This is a frog. This is a rat. Run, dog, mew, cat. Jump, frog, gnaw, rat. Levinson. Caviller, noun, a critic of our own work. Cemetery, noun, an isolated suburban spot where mourners match lies, poets write at a target, and stonecutters spell for a wager. The inscriptions following will serve to illustrate the success attained in these Olympian games. His virtues were so conspicuous that his enemies, unable to overlook them, denied them, and his friends, to whose loose lives they were a rebuke, represented them as vices. They are here commemorated by his family, who shared them. In the earth we here prepare a place to lay our little Clara. Thomas M. and Mary Fraser. P.S. Gabriel will raise her. Kind of dark there. Centaur. Noun. One of a race of persons who lived before the division of labor had been carried to such a pitch of differentiation, and who followed the primitive economic maxim, every man his own horse. The best of the lot was Chiron, who, to the wisdom and virtues of the horse, added the fleetness of man. The scripture story of the head of John the Baptist on a charger shows that pagan myths have a somewhat sophisticated sacred history. Cerberus. Noun. The watchdog of Hades, whose duty it was to guard the entrance, against whom or what does not clearly appear. Everybody sooner or later had to go there, and nobody wanted to carry off the entrance. Cerberus is known to have had 3 heads, and some of the poets have credited him with as many as 100. Professor Graybill, whose clerky erudition and profound knowledge of Greek give his opinion great weight, has averaged all the estimates, and makes the number 27, a judgment that would be entirely conclusive if Professor Graybill had known A. something about dogs, and B. something about arithmetic. Childhood. Noun. The period of human life intermediate between the idiocy of infancy and the folly of youth. 2 removes from the sin of manhood, and 3 from the remorse of age. Christian. Noun. One who believes that the New Testament is a divinely inspired book admirably suited to the spiritual needs of his neighbor. One who follows the teaching of Christ insofar as they are not inconsistent with a life of sin. Damn! Okay. I didn't expect to hear that sort of take from someone in around 1900, but damn, go off, King. I dreamed I stood upon a hill, and lo, the godly multitudes walked to and fro beneath, in Sabbath garments fitly clad, with pious mien, and appropriately sad, while all the church bells made a solemn din, a fire alarm to those who lived in sin. Then saw I gazing thoughtfully below, with tranquil face upon that holy show, a tall, spare figure in a robe of white, whose eyes diffused a melancholy light. God keep you, stranger, I exclaimed. You are, no doubt, your habit shows it from afar, and yet I entertain the hope that you, like these good people, are a Christian too. He raised his eyes, and with a look so stern, it made me with 1,000 blushes burn. Replied his manner with disdain was spiced. What? I, a Christian? No, indeed, I'm Christ. So, I think all of us have had a wish that Christians would be a little bit more Christ-like, and not be something that would shame their target of worship. It has come to my attention that that has been a recurring theme and a closely held belief of many for more than 100 years, if only indeed. Okay, your comment that you're surprised this isn't more controversial has me wondering. I do have to look this up. I wonder if this has been banned. Let me take a look at let's see if it's got a Wikipedia entry and see what we've got to deal with. Because this does certainly seem to be, yeah. Reception. All right, let's see. The initial critical reception for the Cynic's Word Book was mixed. Some reviewers praised Bierce's book, such as the anonymous critic for the Los Angeles Herald, who wrote, "It is a dictionary of misdefinitions, funny, witty, and with an abiding background of humor, a tinge of real philosophy, yet never degenerating into cheapness. One, upon reading it, finds a decided delight upon Bierce's character, and his grim morbidness and obsession. Other reviewers disliked the sharp edge of Bierce's wit. Some were exhausted trying to read the Cynic's Word Book cover to cover, as though it was a thriller or popular novel." I don't know, I'm rather enjoying this, not finding it exhausting at all. Edward F. Cahill of the San Francisco Call concluded Bierce's definitions as paragraphs. They were amusing, but in book form they grow tiresome. Even so, Cahill would not help but quote a definition he found particularly amusing. Exactly. If you're not cutting with your wit, you're missing. Like Cahill, other reviewers, whether they hated the Cynic's Word Book or they loved it, quoted definitions they liked. That's pretty telling. If you don't like it and you're still quoting it, I mean... When the British edition of the Cynic's Word Book was published, one London magazine published a long, nearly full-page approving review. 95% of it was quoted definitions. And the review never mentioned the author Bierce's name even once. Well, that's unfortunate. In 1911, the Devil's Dictionary was published as Volume 7 of the 12-volume set of the collected works of Ambrose Bierce. Oh, okay, so there's a lot of this guy's work out there. I might have to look this up, because I'm actually having quite a lot of fun with this. Most reviewers of the 12-volume set didn't mention the Devil's Dictionary in their reviews, and those few who even named the book gave it scant consideration. For example, the 9 3/4 page magazine article on Bierce's collected work, Frederick Tabby Cooper, gave the Devil's Dictionary one paragraph, explaining one is tempted to devote considerably more space than is warranted to that extremely clever collection of satiric definitions. The Devil's Dictionary, it represents a deliberate pose, consistently maintained. It is pervaded with a spirit of what a large proportion of readers in a Christian country would pronounce irreverent. It tells us nothing new and can hardly be conceived of as an inspiration for higher or nobler living. It is undeniably entertaining reading. The last sentence kind of saves it there. Like, yes, that was a lot of complaining, but at the end you say, well, it's fun to read. I'm okay with that. That's yes, the lady doth protest too much, but had us in the first half. Let's see, what else is here? This is actually, wow, there's a lot of this on reception. Let's see. Just scanning here. Let's see. After receiving attention from reviewers in newspapers and commercial magazines, the Devil's Dictionary started to receive analysis from scholars in dissertations and academic journals. They investigated the place of Bierce's writing in the world's history of satire, how the Devil's Dictionary achieved its humorous effects, and the themes Bierce stressed in his book. In an often cited essay, French author Jacques Sternberg categorized the caustic wit of the Devil's Dictionary as an example of humor noir. Oh. Reprint edition. That's fine. Let's see. Scholars came to agree that the Devil's Dictionary is of primary importance to any study, understanding, or appreciation of Ambrose Bierce. Critics noted that the dictionary's definitions are frequently quoted, both with and without attribution, so several of Bierce's observations have been absorbed into American culture, familiar to and repeated by people who have no idea where the witticisms originated. Critics also noted that Bierce used his humorous dictionary as a vehicle for moral instruction, as he often induced the readers to re-examine the validity of their own thinking. A critical consensus has evolved that considers the Devil's Dictionary as an American masterpiece of cynical wit, and probably the most brilliant work of satire written in America, and maybe one of the greatest in all world literature. Okay, I'm surprised that people weren't pissed about this and actually raised it up pretty well. In 1973, the American Revolution Bicentennial Administration was created by an act of Congress to create events and commemorations to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The Bicentennial Administration decided to select the 100 greatest masterpieces of American literature, 100 books written by Americans that actually helped to shape the very course of our nation. Faculty members of universities in all 50 states submitted nominations. The final choices included 99 volumes of fiction, non-fiction, poetry, and plays, but only one volume of humor, The Devil's Dictionary. Since then, the critical reputation of The Devil's Dictionary has continued to expand, as has the book's popularity with readers, by means of reprints, illustrated versions, and abridged editions continuously published in a dozen languages around the world. Well, I would have expected this to have been landed on a couple ban lists, but I'm not really seeing anything about that. Yeah, I'm not seeing that this was ever banned. Very surprising. Maybe I hold a low opinion of people who decide to ban books. Funny that. Anyway, let's get back to where we were, because that was a nice diversion, but we do still have at least to get through C tonight. Circus. Noun. A place where horses, ponies, and elephants are permitted to see men, women, and children acting the fool. Clairvoyant. Noun. A person, commonly a woman, who has the power of seeing that which is invisible to her patron. Namely, that he is a blockhead. Clarionet. Noun. An instrument of torture, operated by a person who's with cotton in his ears. There are 2 instruments worse than a clarionet. 2 clarionets. Something tells me that Ambrose may have been in marching band. Clergyman. Noun. A man who undertakes the management of our spiritual affairs as a method of bettering his temporal ones. Ooh. Ooh. Careful there. Cut yourself on the edge. Clio. Noun. One of the 9 muses. Clio's function was to preside over history, which she did with great dignity. Many of the prominent citizens of Athens occupying seats on the platform, the meetings being addressed by Messieurs Xenophon, Herodotus, and other popular speakers. Clock. Noun. A machine of great moral value to man, allaying his concern for the future by reminding him what a lot of time remains to him. I don't know, that's rather optimistic. Say, the clock tends to have a different sort of effect on people these days. Rather more an existential dread as you watch time tick away through your fingers as the sand falls and you're doing nothing at all. Says the man who is reading on the internet through a virtual simulacrum. Take that to heart. A busy man complained one day. "I get no time." "What's that you say?" cried out his friend. "A lazy quiz. You have, sir, all the time there is." There's plenty too, and don't you doubt it. We're never far for an hour without it. Thank you. I appreciate the reference to the days of our lives. I've made that joke in various servers and comments and such, and no one ever gets it. Like, I know, all of us, whether you were Gen X, millennial, mixed through, if you had a sick day, what you saw on TV was The Price is Right and The Days of Our Lives, because that's all that was on. If you were homesick from school, that's just disappointing. And further proof that we're just the same person. Close-fisted. Adjective. Unduly desirous of keeping that which many meritorious persons wish to obtain. Close-fisted Scotchman, Johnson cried to thrifty J. Macpherson. See me, I'm ready to divide with any worthy person. Sad Jamie. That is very true, the boast requires no backing, and all aware this to you, who have what you are lacking. Benita M. Bobe. Cenobite. Yeah, I know how to pronounce that. Ha ha ha! Cenobite. Noun. A man who piously shuts himself up to meditate upon the sin of wickedness, and to keep it fresh in his mind, joins a brotherhood of awful examples. O Cenobite, monastical gregarian, you differ from the anchorite, the solitudinarian. With volleyed prayers you wound old Nick. With dropping shots he makes him sick. Quincy Giles. Comfort. Noun. A state of mind produced by contemplation of a neighbor's uneasiness. Commendation. Noun. The tribute we pay to achievement that resembles but do not equal our own. Commerce. Noun. A kind of transaction in which A plunders from B the goods of C, and for compensation B picks the pocket of D of money belonging to E. Commonwealth. Noun. An administrative entity operated by an incalculable multitude of political parasites, logically active but fortuitously efficient. This Commonwealth's capital's quarters view, so thronged with a hungry and indolent crew of clerks, pages, porters, and all attaches, whom rascals appoint and the populace pays, that a cat cannot slip through the thicket of shins, nor hear its own shriek for the noise of their chins. On clerks and on pages and porters and all, misfortune attend and disaster befall. May life be to them a succession of hurts. May fleas by the bushel inhabit their shirts. May aches and diseases encamp in their bones, their lungs full of tubercules, bladders of stone. May microbes bacilli their tissues infest, and tapeworms securely their bowels digest. May corncobs be snared without hope in their hair, and frequent impalement their pleasure impair. Disturbed be their dreams by the awful discourse of audible sofas, sepulchrally hoarse. By chairs acrobatic and wavering floors, the mattress that kicks and the pillow that snores, sons of cupidity, cradled in sin, your criminal ranks may the death angel thin, avenging the friend whom I couldn't work in. KQ. That is a very high-tier curse. That's, you know what? That could be noted. You should, pull that out. Whenever someone particularly rubs you the wrong way, that's a good one. That's a good one. Compromise. Noun. such an adjustment of conflicting interests as gives each adversary the satisfaction of thinking he has got what he ought not to have, and is deprived of nothing, except what was justly his due. See, this is one of the main divergence points that we've seen from modern day to the time. There's no such thing as compromise. It wouldn't even be in a modern Devil's Dictionary. It's a myth, a legend, something out of the mists of the past and raised on a pedestal. No. There is no compromise now. There can only be the ruling way. I should have made this drink stronger. Compulsion. Noun. The eloquence of power. Ooh, I like that. Condole. Verb. Intransitive. To show that bereavement is a smaller evil than sympathy. I have not seen sympathy called as an evil or a sin, except by the dipshit who the world is better off without. So this is a nice surprise, because given that it's coming from Ambrose, he's meaning this as a cutting criticism, rather than, preaching this as a fact to be pushed upon, unlike a certain asshole. So, sympathy. Huh. Confidant. Noun. One entrusted by A with the secrets of B, confided by him to C. See, the best part is, yes, this gives very oniony vibes. This was originally printed in a proper newspaper. I'm not sure if he had a column or if this was, in effect, like the equivalent of the comics, the funnies, where you'd have a little bit of a strip of these pushed through. So it was very much like given legitimacy by being published in a real paper. Journalism is not what it used to be. Congratulation. Noun. The civility of envy. Congress. Noun. A body of men who meet to repeal laws. Damn, okay. Connoisseur. Noun. A specialist who knows everything about something and nothing about anything else. An old wine bibber having been smashed in a railway collision, some wine was poured on his lips to revive him. Poliac, 1873, he murmured, and died. Conservative. Noun. A statesman who is enamored of existing evils, as distinguished from the liberal, who wishes to replace them with others. Okay. Consolation. Noun. The knowledge that a better man is more unfortunate than yourself. Consul. Noun. In American politics, a person who, having failed to secure an office from the people, is given one by the administration on condition that he leave the country. William Randolph Hearst. I'm probably familiar with the travesty that he's done to journalism, but not necessarily with the name. See, push sensationalism, human interest. San Francisco. He's a nepo baby too. Oh, it just keeps getting better. Oh, he acquired the journal. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, this guy is, yeah, that's, okay, yeah. Yeah, yeah, this is most certainly, something that, you know, many modern new, you can't see me doing air quotes. I think I need an asset to do air quotes, because you can't see me doing it, but I'm like cramping my fingers by air quoting so hard. But modern journalists of a certain dint, this is like their Jesus. Indeed, I blame him for what has become of modern journalism. There are some good journalists left. However, most of them are unemployed. Maybe I did make this drink just strong enough. I'm a little sassy tonight. Where were we? Consolation. Oh, no, we already did that. Consult. Okay. Consult. A verb. Intransitive. To seek another's disapproval of a course already decided on. Contempt. Noun. The feeling of a prudent man for an enemy who is too formidable safely to be opposed. Controversy. Noun. A battle in which spittle or ink replaces the injurious cannonball and the inconsiderate bayonet. In controversy with the facile tongue, that bloodless warfare of the old and young, so seek your adversary to engage, that on himself he shall exhaust his rage. And, like a snake that's fastened to the ground, with his own fangs inflict the fatal wound. You ask me how this miracle is done? Adopt his own opinions, one by one, and taunt him to refute them. In his wrath he'll sweep them pitilessly from his path. Advance them gently, all you wish to prove, each proposition prefaced with, as you've so well remarked, or as you wisely say. And I cannot dispute, or by the way, this view of which, better far expressed, runs through your argument. Then leave the rest to him secure that he'll perform his trust, and prove your views intelligent and just. Conmore April Brune. What was the word on that? That was a nice poem. Oh, it was part of controversy, okay. Convent, noun. A place of retirement for women who wish for leisure to meditate upon the vice of idleness. Conversation, noun. A fair for the display of the minor mental commodities, each exhibitor being too intent upon the arrangement of his own wares to observe those of his neighbor. Coronation, noun. The ceremony of investing a sovereign with the outward and visible signs of his divine right to be blown sky high with a dynamite bomb. A corporal, noun. A man who occupies the lowest rung of the military ladder. A corporal? Really? Fiercely the battle raged, and sad to tell, our corporal heroically fell. Fame from her height looked down upon the brawl, and said, he hadn't very far to fall. Giacomo Smith. I guess that makes sense, because as a corporal, you are basically second in charge of the squad, and that means all the shit rolls downhill. Meanwhile, all of the privates and such are pushing all their problems up to you. And such, and as such, you get it from both ends. No respect, nowhere. That's fair. You know what? That's a good take. I like that. There we go. Corporation. Noun. An ingenious device for obtaining individual profit without individual responsibility. Damn, dude! Ambrose calling out corporations before it was cool. Every word we get through this, aside from the unfortunate slur that we self-censored earlier, that was just a product of the times, really, and hasn't come up since, about every word has me gaining in respect for this man. I'm enjoying this quite a bit. I'm sure, but I honestly, given what we've read so far, I would not be surprised if people from just about any place on the political spectrum would find things to identify with and enjoy out of the Devil's Dictionary. It's all really up to interpretation and how you frame it within your own mind. From my perspective, this is at the very worst, an enlightened centrist position of saying everything is dumb. But I think it could very easily be interpreted of any different way that you care to attribute this to. And it's really the hallmark of something that is going to stand the test of time. Really, really happy to have found this. And I will be the first to admit this was just a happy accident. I was browsing American literature on Gutenberg and just clicking next page, next page, next page, and I saw this, and it's a sensationary title, and I'm like, you know what? Let's try it. And I could not be happier for this discovery. Yeah. All right. Corsair. Noun. A politician. Sorry. Oof. Corsair. Noun. A politician of the seas. Well, I rather gave up the ghost on how I felt about that one. Court fool. Noun. The plaintiff. Why is the end of C so good? Coward. Noun. One who, in a perilous emergency, thinks with his legs. Crayfish. Noun. A small crustacean very much resembling the lobster, but less indigestible. Oh, a reminder. This is a bit that doesn't really carry over through the times very well. Lobster as a delicacy is a more modern development. Yeah, exactly. We were both going there. At the time, lobster was given to prison inmates as just trash that was pulled up alongside the trawler nets. It's not a luxury, not a delicacy at the time. So at this point, they're like, oh yeah, crayfish, delicious. Lobster, ew, gross, big bug. In this small fish, I take it that human wisdom is admirably figured and symbolized. For whereas the crayfish doth move only backward and can have only retrospection, seeing naught but the perils already past, so the wisdom of man doth not enable him to avoid the follies that beset his course, but only to apprehend their nature afterward. Sir James Merivale. Creditor. Noun. One of a tribe of savages, dwelling beyond the financial straits and dreaded for their desolating incursions. Cremona. Noun. A high-priced violin made in Connecticut. That seems like a bit that I don't understand. That's probably more of a contemporary thing to the times, which, sadly, it did not translate to the modern age. Or at least I'm not in tuned enough to violins? I don't know. I'd have to look that one up, but I'm not at the luxury of time. Critic. Noun. A person who boasts himself hard to please, because nobody tries to please him. There is a land of pure delight, beyond the Jordan's flood, where saints, apparelled all in white, fling back the critic's mud. And as he legs it through the skies, his pelt is a sable hue. He sorrows sore to recognize the missiles that he threw. Orin Goof. Oh, this one's gonna be good. Cross. Noun. An ancient religious symbol erroneously supposed to owe its significance to the most solemn event in the history of Christianity, but really antedating it by thousands of years. By many, it has been believed to be identical with the crux ansanta of the ancient phallic worship, but it has been traced even beyond all that we know of that, to the rites of primitive peoples. We have today the white cross as a symbol of chastity, the red cross as a badge of benevolent neutrality in war. Having in mind the former, the Reverend Father Gasalaska Jape smites the lyre to the effect following. Be good the sisterhood, cry out in holy chorus, and to dissuade from sin parade their various charms before us. But why, oh why, has ne'er an eye seen her of winsome manner, and youthful grace and pretty face, flaunting the white cross banner? Now, where's the need of speech and screed to better our behaving? A simpler plan for saving man, but first, is he worth saving? Is adheres when he declines to flee from bad thoughts that beset him, ignores the law as 'twere a straw, and wants to sin, don't let him. Oh! That is kind of cool. Yeah, because Stradivarius, obviously, is, like, the violin. So, if it is a reference to knockoffs made in Connecticut, very possibly and probably, it's basically a knock-on made in Taiwan. Cool. So, while we didn't get that joke right off the bat, it still strikes home with a little bit of legwork. Thanks for looking that up. Alright. Qui bono? Latin. What good would that do me? Cunning. Noun. The faculty that distinguishes a weak animal or person from a strong one. It brings its possessor much mental satisfaction and great material adversity. An Italian proverb says, the furrier gets the skins of more foxes than asses. Cupid. Noun. The so-called god of love. This bastard creation of a barbarous fancy was no doubt inflicted upon mythology for the sins of its deities. Of all unbeautiful and inappropriate conceptions, this is the most reasonless and offensive. The notion of symbolizing sexual love by a semi-sexless babe, and comparing the pains of passion to the wounds of an arrow, of introducing this pudgy homunculus into art grossly to materialize the subtle spirit and suggestion of the work, this is eminently worthy of the age that, giving it birth, laid it on the doorstep of prosperity. Woo! Okay, calm down, Ambrose. That one was a little bit more out there. Woo! Not that I disagree with it, but there was some heat as he was putting the pen to that one. And it tells us something about him. Curiosity. Noun. An objectionable quality of the female mind. The desire to know whether or not a woman is cursed with curiosity is one of the most active and insatiable passions of the masculine soul. I like that. He's kind of knocking both sides there, saying that yes, curiosity is a vice of womenfolk, but the wondering and the curiosity whether or not she possesses curiosity is a vice of the menfolk. Nobody is free from catching strays tonight. Curse. Verb. Transitive. Energetically, to belabor with a verbal slapstick. This is an operation which in literature, particularly in the drama, is commonly fatal to the victim. Nevertheless, the liability to a cursing is a risk that cuts but a small figure in fixing the rates of life insurance. Cynic. Noun. A blackguard whose faulty vision sees things as they are, not as they ought to be. Hence the custom among the Scythians of plucking out a cynic's eyes to improve his vision. All right, so in our first session of reading from the Devil's Dictionary, I will say this has been a tremendous joy. And as I think we've all thought and noted, in these annoying times, a bit of irreverence is exactly what is needed to be able to continue placing one foot before the other. So, this was a happy accident. A spectacular find, and one that I think will be a very good use of our time to fit a little bit in between projects. That's kind of what I was hoping the Arabian Nights would have been, and it might still be if we can find a better translation than the one we had to suffer through last time. But this needs no coaxing. There's no story. There's nothing to worry about forgetting as you go by. So I think we can weave this in, along with the remaining few Lovecraftian short stories that we have, to fill our time between books. And allow me to be a little bit lazy in choosing the next book whenever we finish one, because I have something that I can pull out of my back pocket. Did someone say something? Oh, no. Don't mind the peanut gallery. No. This isn't a selfish selection at all. No. The fact that it's easy and I enjoy it. Oh, no. We do have Poe, yes. We selected a few of the highlights of Poe from the collection that we had earlier. However, we really didn't get too deep into it. We got like the Raven and the Telltale Heart and the really the best of Poe, but really, it's when you get into the second and third grade of things of Lovecraft and Poe both, the things really get weird, and that's why you read those anyway, right? The popular ones, meh. The masses have slobbed all over them. Give me the ones for the specialists. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Well, I'll be damned. The Automod caught another one. I think Twitch started rolling out a smart detection that, you know what? I like it. Yeah, so some short stories that I can just have at hand for in between longer books, I am all about, because sometimes I just need something easy. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and set a bookmark here because we are done for the night. And we'll get out of this reading nook and into just the coziness of this corner. I have a little bit of Manhattan left. Just a touch. I did not have cherries, but I have mixed berry preserves, and wouldn't you know, just a dollop of the preserves function fantastically as a substitute for a cherry. They don't really dissolve, but it gives that little bit of the nose to it. The experimentations of an ill-equipped bar are sometimes as happy accidents as the discovery of fantastic satire. Hey. Alright, guys. So, we are all set for tonight. Oh, yeah, you know what? The Luxardos are fantastic. Although, sometimes the extraordinarily cheap cherries that have, like, the fake cherry syrup in there, sometimes those are so good. But although those are probably better in desserts than they are in drinks. Yeah. If you're making a banana split, the super fake bright red cherries, probably better. Shirley Temples are good, yeah. But if you're doing something like in a Manhattan, or you're tossing in garnish for an old-fashioned or something, you need good cherries. You need good cherries. And the problem with those is they don't really keep as well as you would like. And I'm not nearly alcoholic enough to go through a jar. And it would be a waste to just eat them, because they're meant for the drinks. Yep. Yep. And I don't entertain. Like, ever. My bar is sadly understocked. I've got the hard liquors. I've got some rum. I've got a few different whiskeys, because I'm more of a whiskey bourbon sort. I've got some scotch. I've got a decent tequila, actually, one that wouldn't do me wrong if I showed up at a bottle at the back of house in a kitchen sometime. How you have a third of a bottle of Malort is A, shocking, and B, tells me exactly where you live. Because for most people on the planet, a bottle of Malort sits on the shelf with about one shot taken from the bottle, and never anything more than that. Exactly, yeah. The fact that you got through 2/3 of the bottle either means you were in a depressive mood that you were intentionally trying to become more depressive, or you're from Chicago. Those are the two options. If you're particularly maudlin, or you're where it's made. That's it. If you're doing like a shot of it, because I can't really even think of anything that. What do you use Malort in? Or is it just taken straight? For the life of me, I don't know. It is such a pungent flavor. It overpowers literally anything you put in it. Yeah, you could use it as bitters. That's probably the best use of it, honestly. It's like, use it as bitters, or use, like, shoot, what are my bitters? Angostura. I love Angostura bitters. Good stuff. Good stuff. And really, that you can't go wrong with that in almost any drink. But a bottle of Malort is a lot to use as bitters. A lot. Yeah. Like, even a couple dashes would be like, wow, it's in your face. There's probably cocktails that were made with Malort in mind. But I imagine they're like 50% simple syrup and like 10% Malort and other things in like some florals or something to mask it. And the Malort is just there to give it some bite. So, yeah, if you're chucking it, that means it was probably election night 2020. I guess 2016 is probably the better choice of years. But I'm a few drinks in. Years are hard, alright? Alright, so we are finished up. Yeah, Negronis are great. Malort is not. I will drink a lot. I'll drink whatever you put in front of me. Malort's got a vibe. All right. I do believe that we have, at this point, chased off just about everyone who's watching. I think at this point it's you and I. I'm not sorry. We're kind of going off topic. So, I do believe there is a very good chance that we will not be able to raid, but we're going to try. Let's see who's on tonight. There's a few folks around. Let's see. Same category. Is anybody reading tonight? Oh lordy, that guy's, yep, that's a werewolf guy. Okay. Lady Chef Royale. Somebody's reading a Gunnar visual novel. I'll not judge, but that thumbnail is something. Let's see. That is definitely Cyrillic. I'm not even gonna try. Somebody's writing. Somebody's playing. Is the seat taken while saying they're reading? Oh, see, it's done. Oh no. Well, you're just in time to show up and catch. Okay, let's see. Ultra Blue is reading Jane Eyre, but we do raid her a lot. I'd like to try and expand out if we can. If we don't have any other options, I will send us her way. But I would like to expand our horizons a little bit. This one's doing choose your own adventure. They're a frog tuber. I can deal with that. Not a whole lot tonight. Yeah, you know what? Let's try that. Let's see if the choose your own adventure person will allow us in. They've been going for like 3 hours. So they may be finishing, but let's try. There's only a couple of us, so we may get. Let's try. Yes, they've got a disclaimer that they have sexual themes. Z Akamos, I trust you will be mature about this. Let's see if they allow us to raid. Oh, I think so. We might get in. All right, guys. All right. So, those of you on YouTube, if you have not yet, I encourage you to drop a like on the stream. We have all of our VODs into eternity available on the YouTube channel. If you have not, a subscription would be wonderfully welcome. If you are on Twitch, we're just getting started. Every follower goes a long way. I just do this for the love of the game, but it would be nice to see numbers go burr. Alright, tomorrow we will be reading at 6 o'clock instead of 8. We will be starting the first book of the Hyperion Cantos, a titan of sci-fi in honor of the recently departed author. Alright, we're going to go ahead and head along to your beloved Issy, who is a frog VTuber who is doing a Let's Read Choose Your Own Adventure Consequences thing. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and I hope you have had fun and will have fun with beloved Issy. Alright, have a good night, guys. Thank you very much.
Welcome. I'm playing a little choose your own adventure story. It's all fancy and with the pretty elf lady in it. But then we got let's what? Not quite. It's mainly fancy, but you know, she's very flirtatious, and we are so ever very gay. Both me